Hey everyone, welcome to another top 10 list. I've got a list suggested by Lady Kid Nichols. It's the second list she suggested. Make sure to stop by her channel and say hi. Tell her I sent you over there. In one of my other videos, she was watching when I had done one of my emergency currency notes, and she asked if there were other emergency currency notes, if there was, what the range was. So I decided I was going to do a top 10 list of World War II notes, top 10 World War II notes. These were notes that were printed exclusively during World War II because of World War II. So with that, let me get this out of the way. I've got Lady Kid Nichols right up there. And before I jump into the top 10, I do have some interesting, I guess you'd call them honorable mentions. I don't know a whole lot about foreign currency. I'm going to start off by saying that right now. So if any of these are not part of the same series, so be it. But what I've got here is it says the Japanese government right on it, 1 peso. Japanese government, 10 pesos. Japanese government, 10 pesos as well. And this one actually says 1,000 pesos on it. Here's the back of these here. Now, what these are, as to the best of my knowledge, I could be wrong on some of these, especially since there's 2 10s that are slightly different. They don't have years on them. This one does have a serial number that's almost completely off of there. This one's got a serial number on there that can be seen, 48. There's the big number right there. Now, what these are notes from the Philippines. Those of you who know World War II history better than me, you can probably help fill in the gaps. But during World War II, at the beginning of World War II, I should say, the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor. And they attacked Pearl Harbor with half their fleet. The other half actually went to the Philippines and attacked there. And they actually took over the Philippine Islands. And when they did so, this was the currency that they installed on the Philippines. Japanese government, 1 peso. The Philippine government used pesos, so you had the Japanese government using pesos. So you've got the 1 peso, the 10 pesos, another different variation of the 10 pesos here, and then this is a 1,000 peso as well. So these were, as far as I know, these were Japanese currency used on the Philippine Islands during World War II when Japan invaded the Philippines. So those are not part of my top 10 because those do not have to do with the U.S. However, they are still World War II notes that are in existence only because of World War II. So let's get to the actual top 10. The first note I'm going to bring up also happens to be from the Philippines, but you'll notice this one is a little different. This one almost looks familiar, especially if you collect old United States currency notes. It does have quite of a familiar look, and there's a really good reason for that. This is what was known as a Victory Series note. You can see right here, it says Victory Series number 66, and what this is, well, after Japan took over, in 1944, the U.S. went back to the Philippines and took it back and freed it to the Philippines, the Philippine government. And with that happening, the Bureau of Printing and Engraving printed the Philippines new money. So this was printed in the U.S. for the Philippines, and it was their Victory Series is what they call it. So you've got Victory Series number 66. I know I keep pointing out this little thing right here, but that's not what makes this special. What makes it special is that. That is why it's called the Victory Series. That is part of the note, just so every time they looked in their wallets, they got to remember victory, that they had defeated Japan when Japan invaded them. So this was the $1 note, 1944 $1 Philippine, 1 peso note, I should say, payable to the bearer on demand in silver pesos or in legal tender, currency of the United States or equivalent value. That's number 10 on my list, the Philippine 1 peso 1944 Victory Series. Number 9, we'll bump it up just a notch. Here is the $2 Victory Series. Once again, the $2 Victory Series number 66. You can see it does say Victory right there. Same kind of situation in the center, payable to the bearer on demand in silver pesos or in legal tender, currency of the United States of equal equivalent value. Victory Series number 66, and of course the $2 bill. This one is a blue back, but still has Victory embossed on the back. That is part of the bill, like I said. And once again, a bill that only exists because of World War II, and like I said, printed in the U.S. That would be number 9. Now, the thing with these Philippine notes, I do not know a whole lot about foreign currency, so I don't know the actual values of these notes. But when I saw them, I had to have them since it was a reasonable price. I do not have large denominations of these, but as far as 10.9, as far as number 8 goes, this is the biggest denomination I was willing to get. I did get the $5 Victory Series as well. This one has Victory Series over on this side, still series number 66. Familiar serial numbers there. Once again, payable to the bearer on demand in silver. Once again, of the United States of equal value. And when you flip this one over, once again, it does have Victory written right on the back. The Victory Series. Now, I believe there are 10s and 20s as well, but like I said, not knowing the values of these, I wasn't going to try to fill out the whole thing without having any actual guide telling me what the values of these are. But for what I paid for these, I was quite content, and I am proud to have them in my collection. So that's the 1, the 2, and the 5 Philippine pesos from World War II. Those, like I said, from 1944, the Victory Series. Number 7 on the list. Number 7, this is a $1 North Africa silver certificate. The $1 silver certificate from North Africa, you can see that it does state silver certificate right across the top. This was currency that was used in North Africa. And from the back, looks like you can't tell it from any other notes. If you're thumbing through notes from the back, make sure to turn them over because you never know what you're going to find on the front. What makes these special is this yellow seal right there. That yellow seal designates this as a North Africa note. Now, being a North Africa note, that means that if a bunch of this money was ever to fall into enemy hands, all the U.S. government had to do was declare any note that had a yellow seal as invalid, and it would negate the value of the notes, and they could no longer be spent. So this was a safety measure that they used in World War II, and this was the North Africa version, obviously used in North Africa, Europe, everything that was going on that portion of the battle. So that's number 7. Number 6, one of the more famous notes. This is the $1 Hawaii note. Once again, also a silver certificate. After the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, they were worried about a full-on invasion of Hawaii, so they printed up these notes here with the brown seal. Brown seal, silver certificates, $1 note from Hawaii. You can see it's got Hawaii written here, also in big letters across the back. It says Hawaii. And the principle behind these was the same. If Japan was ever to invade and empty our banks with the swipe of a pen, we could negate all the money, so them stealing money from us wouldn't affect us in the least. They wouldn't be able to spend that money. That makes the banks and the local areas a lot smaller targets rather than just going after military targets. So that is the $1 Hawaii note, 10.9876. Number 5. Number 5, we're going to step it up a little bit. This is the $10 silver certificate. This was also the North Africa note. $10 North Africa note. You can see it's got the big seal right over there. I like it when they've got the blue numerals on the side. It just really pops with the blue and the yellow like that. The $10 silver certificate, this one was fairly common. That's why it's listed where it was. The key, well, we'll get to that in a little bit. The $10 silver certificate from the North Africa series, once again, checking out the back, looks to be the very familiar back of a $10 bill that we're used to seeing. However, on the front, that's definitely not the normal thing. Being a silver certificate, of course, you do have the blue numbers in the serial number. But yeah, I like the blue pop there with the yellow side by side, especially on a note that's in pretty good shape with the white background that stands out pretty good. Next up, we'll stick with the same denomination. I've got a $10 Hawaii note. The $10 Hawaii note, by the way, these are series 1934A is the series on them, but that's not the way bills are. The series had changed in 1934, even though these were printed after Pearl Harbor in 1941. I believe these were out in 42. $10 Hawaii note, you can see has the brown seal on it, and it also has the Hawaii there, Hawaii right there. and Hawaii listed on the back. So that is your standard $10 emergency currency. Now the thing is with this one is you'll notice on the top this says Federal Reserve note. This isn't a silver certificate. This one is actually a Federal Reserve note. That makes it kind of unique. Normally they used silver certificates, but here with the $10 Hawaii note that they decided to make this a Federal Reserve note. So this was not backed by silver. Federal Reserve note from Hawaii. Next up, 10,9,8,7,6,5,4. Number 3. Number 3, this is back to the North Africa series. The North Africa series, this one is a silver certificate, and it is a $5 note. Also from the series of 1934A. If you're collecting the North Africa series, this is the tough note to get. They didn't make a whole lot of these. It retains more value than the $10 bill. So it's one of the weird times that you don't necessarily want the largest denomination. The 1934A North Africa silver certificate. Once again, you've got the yellow to indicate that it's North Africa. Now, nowhere on the note does it actually say North Africa. So if you don't know about this little color coding here, then you're out of luck. So I'm glad you're watching, so you guys are learning. You get the blue numeral here, and the blue serial numbers indicating silver certificate, as well as silver certificate across the top. Checking the back, standard look for a $5 bill. Nothing surprising there. So that would be the $5 North Africa silver certificate, also part of the emergency currency series. Number 2, one of the most unusual notes you're going to see in the collection. This Hawaii note is a $20 emergency currency note, $20 Hawaii note. Now, much like the $10 from Hawaii, this one is also, as you can see on top, a Federal Reserve note. So this is not a silver certificate. This wasn't backed by silver. This was backed by the U.S. saying that this is real money. In fact, we can read it right here. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, and is redeemable in lawful money at the United States Treasury or at any Federal Reserve Bank. Series of 1934. Once again, saying Hawaii on this side, and when we flip it, it says Hawaii across the back as well. Now, the $20 bill you would think would be the most expensive in the collection, but that isn't the case. The 20s were fairly common. The note that isn't as common, though, in this series is going to be my number 1. When it comes to World War II currency, one of the better bills to get would be this one right here. Number 1 on my list is the 1934A Hawaii emergency currency $5 bill. The $5 note, you can see this one is also a Federal Reserve note. Federal Reserve note from Hawaii during World War II. It's got Hawaii stamped on both sides here. Same way on the back as they did. And once again, that was just so that with the swipe of a pen, they could cancel all of these bills. Now, they didn't make as many of the $5 bills as the rest of them. So when it comes to putting together the emergency currency collection, this particular bill is the tougher one to get. The other ones are available, and this one actually runs about as much as the 20, if I recall. I believe I got this one for right around $100. The 20, you can see, had 75 listed on it. And I think the 10 is also about $80 or so. But this one ran about $100. So the $5 bill in the emergency currency series is most certainly the key note to have. And of course, condition is going to be everything too. The better condition the bill, the more you can expect to pay. So that's what I've got this week for my top 10 list. The top 10 notes from World War II. Most of you probably haven't seen the Philippines notes before. I don't really want to call them foreign currency because they were actually printed in the U.S. for the Philippines. Still a very crucial part of our World War II effort. All right, everyone. Thanks again to Lady Kid Nichols for suggesting that I do a list like this. If you guys agree with my list, go ahead and hit that like button. If you have an idea for a list that I should do, please leave that in the comments. I would be more than happy to put together some more lists like this. I've got a bunch of lists that I'm going to do in the future, and I look forward to getting on those. So thanks once again, Lady Kid Nichols. Be sure to stop by her site, tell her I sent you, and I said hi. Thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you next week.